IVM.
I want to thank Intel for supporting our show. Do you remember last year when we spoke about how the Intel vPro platform is built for business? Well, I'm glad to say we've kicked it up a notch. That's right, Intel is back with a new and improved version of the platform. The new Intel vPro platform lets you do more of what you want and less of what you don't. So it's better for you and for your IT teams, who really are the backbone of keeping your work from home experience easy and enjoyable. I can safely say that the new vPro platform gives you more enterprise efficiency with less constraints. Visit intel.in/morewithvpro, that's VPRO, to discover how you can get more done with less waiting. If you're listening on the IVM Podcast Android app, click the link that's visible to you now.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy, actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with the Battle of Thermopylae. This is, of course, the famous battle in the movie 300. The historian who described the battle spoke about how the Persian army was 2.5 million strong and the Spartans were just 300 in number. And of course, these numbers were grossly exaggerated. The size of the entire Persian force was about 70,000 soldiers and the Spartans were about 4,000 soldiers. And these are, of course, guesstimates looking back so many hundreds of years. But 300 versus 2.5 million makes for a better story, don't you think? And in case you haven't figured out why we're talking about the 300, have you looked at the episode number? I can't believe it. It's our 300th episode. How time flies and just how many different topics I have researched for all these episodes. Well, onwards and upwards to episode 3000 now. There are so many things, you learn about the Spartans. They were like the rock stars of their time. There is even a word that is used to describe an obsession to their way of life. It is called laconism. It described the way the Spartans lived in training, in speech, in dressing, and in their mindset. And since it's a special episode, I want to share with you my favorite Spartan ways of life that can be habits for us all. Let's first talk about their mindset. The manner in which they spoke was always to the point. They did not ramble on and on like we do while we're talking. And this showcases a clarity of thought. By talking less, you're listening more and hence absorbing more information. More importantly, if you talk less, you have to choose your words carefully before speaking. And this means you have thought things through before you started speaking. If you think while you're talking, you will ramble, you will say and all those little strange sounds we make when we're thinking and talking. A large reason you like the Habit Coach podcast is because of it delivering just the right amount of information in a short amount of time. Which means I have to spend a lot of time thinking about what I want to say before the recording. And I suggest do this every time before you speak as well. Ask yourself 3 things. Why do I want to say this? What do I want to convey? And how best can I say this so that the other person understands? Very often, you will stop at just the first question. Why? Because half the time we don't know why we want to say something. The second habit is that of physical fitness and readiness. The Spartans, being a warring nation, had a lot of emphasis on physical fitness and physical superiority. From the time they were children, Spartans were brought up with the idea of being the best possible fighters. It was each citizen's duty to be fighting fit all the way up to the age of 60 years. Leonidas, the hero of the movie 300, in real life was in his 60s when that epic battle took place. Every 2 weeks, the Spartans would be made to stand naked and were inspected for their physical strength and to make sure that they were maintaining themselves. Almost like the way an air force would inspect its top fighter jets. And why is this important in our life? We are not going into battle. But according to me, it's a fantastic habit to have. Imagine if you looked at your body as if it were a high-performing machine, an expensive high-performing machine. Wouldn't you treat it differently? Wouldn't you maintain it differently? And I also appreciate that they did not segregate on age. Kids started training at an early age and even into the 60s, they were training just as hard. So work on your body, work on yourself. Inspect it to make sure you are up to the standards you set for yourself. And this will be very tough and uncomfortable. I can guarantee that. And I can almost already hear so many excuses coming for this habit. All I'm saying is that your body can do amazing things. Use it. The final habit that I want to share with you has to do with the Spartan warrior creed. It says, "He who sweats more in training bleeds less in war." This is such a powerful statement. Train, train, train. Practice, practice, practice. Become so skilled, so smooth at what you do. The effort you put in your training, the practice you put in before the big day will always show through. People can always tell the difference. And the habit of deliberate practice and training for a skill you want is what I wanted to share with you. As your habit coach, I'm always pushing you to be the best version of yourself. And this means learning new skills, being more than your competition. The habits you learn from listening to the podcasts are always to train your mind, your body, and your spirit. And we've done 300 episodes, each packed with a habit you can use and work with. The Spartans definitely had their own habits dialed in. For them, it was socially and culturally enforced. But for us, we have to work on ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. Use this podcast as a guide. I am, of course, here as your coach, always in your corner, rooting for you. In fact, please send me a message and tell me how has this podcast helped you. Send me a message on Instagram at AshdinDoc or send me an email, ashdin@awesome180.com. I am so happy that you joined me on this journey. I can't believe it's been 300 episodes. Onwards and upwards.
So start these habits and share with us your progress using the hashtag #TheHabitCoach. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Intel, for supporting us. Great week on the network. If you haven't been listening, why haven't you been listening? You should be listening. Rohan Joshi was on Uncle Please Sit, discussed the toxicity of the Indian pop culture. Really fun conversation to listen to. Rajiv Samant, the founder of Sula Wines, was on Cyrus Says. Again, I think that was a fun conversation. Also want to call out the season finale of Yuddha. Yuddha is our military history podcast. Definitely do check that out. It's a really great listen. And finally, I want to just remind you all that, it's a dark time, but if you need a smile, go check out the Smile India podcast by Shifa Mehta. It's in both English and Hindi, and I think that you will really enjoy the kinds of things that she's talking about there. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Have you ever wondered how successful people do their thing? How do they navigate the challenges they often face? Are you wondering about the future of restaurants, film, education, technology, and everything else in between? Hi, I'm Gauri Devidayal, best known for being one of the brains behind The Table, an award-winning restaurant in Bombay. One thing my life as a restaurateur has given me is the opportunity to meet with some truly inspiring people, most often just by chatting with strangers at the community table. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about learning the new dimensions of business and understanding how different people swim this sea. It's an opportunity for me to pick their brains and ask them all the questions on my mind, whether it's about learning from their past experiences or talking about future trends. Through their journeys, stories, and insights, I hope you too, like me, will come away inspired and energized. So come, join me every Wednesday with your favorite drink, because this round is on me.